BOGO Beans. Welcome back. I'm Roedah.
And I'm Nour, and this is Chapters Chitchat, your weekly excuse to overanalyze a single sentence for 20 minutes.
Or more. Every week, we read excerpts from books, we discuss books we've read, we spiral over short stories, and it's all in good nature.
Whether it's poetic, unhinged, or just plain confusing, we're diving in with ratings, outrageous explanations, and the occasional existential crisis.
This isn't...
Multiple.
Crises. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
This isn't your English lit class. It's way more fun. It's messier. It's thought-provoking. You won't fall asleep, hopefully. Did I mention it's more fun?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Do you think it's fun, cameraman? He's nodding. So grab your emotional support beverage. I'm drinking a watered-down, lukewarm coffee.
Same, but I really like it. And it has cinnamon in it. It's really good. And it's sweetened with honey.
She's just saying that because I made it and she doesn't want to hurt my feelings.
No, I actually like it.
Yeah?
Yeah. Other than Vietnamese coffee, this is like the only other coffee I've ever really liked. I usually like hate on cafe coffee. That's why I never get it.
That make me happy.
So get cozy.
And let's crack open a chapter.
This is Chapters Chitchat. All right, so today we decided to actually go over a book that we've both read. And it is called As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zoulfa Katouh.
I think it's Katouh.
Katouh.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is written by a Syrian American author. It is a YA book, which means it is young adult. And we both read it for a book club, actually, the September book club, which is the book club I host monthly meetings for. And we decided to read this in April for Arab American Heritage Month. I didn't know what I was going into. I just knew that it was really, really popular for years and tragic, also halal love. So I was like, oh, kind of intriguing. Read it, broke my heart. It follows a pharmacy student who at the beginning of the revolution finds herself working at a hospital. And suddenly, instead of pursuing pharmacy, she's holding a scalpel and helping heal people, heal the wounded during a huge time of conflict. And it is an interesting read because it helps us understand how it might feel for someone to grapple with PTSD but still look for beauty and love and trust and hope while battling fear and anxiety and trauma. And so it's just a war story, a love story, a coming of age story all in one. And it's really great.
This book isn't just fiction. It's deeply grounded in reality, and it truly broke us in the best way. Mm-hmm. So today we're going to digest some of the most powerful quotes and parts of the book and go into questions that they raise.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit of background. This takes place during the beginning of the Syrian revolution. And it grapples with the thoughts around identity and belonging when it comes to homeland and wanting to defend your homeland, but also survive, and the tragic balance between the two and what survival means for a future for your homeland, right? And so there's so much that this gets into. It's not just a halal love story, but it's so much more than that. And so once you get past that very lovely plot, it brings in a lot of meaning.
I didn't think it was that lovely. But anyways,
I just meant it's like, it is lovely though.
I think it's a beacon of hope considering all that's going on.
Yes. All right. Do you want to go over the first quote that you found that you liked from the book?
Okay. So it goes like this. There is love in a country that is tearing itself apart. Love in the screams that echo through bombed buildings. Love in the way he touches my hair, like I won't shatter. People think love disappears in war, but sometimes love is the only thing that survives it. And for some background context, Salama is falling in love amid the devastation of the war. Her moments with Kinan, what was he, a reporter? No, he wasn't a reporter. the dude.
He took video. Yeah, he did record like a lot of the conflict. He wanted to make sure that it was documented.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say he was a reporter or a videographer or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Her love interest.
Her moments with him are soft, quiet, and deeply needed. In a world where everything is being taken from her and her family, love becomes an act of defiance.
I mean, that's really true. You were mentioning that love is a beacon of hope, right? And that's exactly what it is. Like it is a reason to survive, and a reason to survive is a means to survive, and that in and of itself is an act of quiet rebellion. Like it's like not allowing anyone to like actually push you all the way down, to quash you. We see the survival of those in, let's call them conflict zones, who are oppressed, and somehow they find the means to smile, to thrive in their own ways still, despite everything that they're going through, that they're facing. And a lot of that is the product of some form of love, whether romantic, familial, whatever, like something that keeps them going.
Creating that space within yourself to have the capacity to find love in these difficult situations.
It makes me think about like how softness can exist where there is violence, but it's hard to like dull an edge that's been chipped at for so long. You know what I mean? And so in and of itself, it's an act of like growth and revolution internally, like especially when you face so much that you become jaded. Like love is letting something in. It is letting in that light that you were talking about earlier, that beacon of hope. What I find interesting though is our protagonist Salama. She's been through so much. She's lost so many people. She's barely holding together her reality day by day, and somehow she has the capacity to allow this in, to go see the sunset with him, to, you know, notice the flowers. And it speaks to how love and grief can still exist side by side. And you and I have talked about this before, like how sometimes when people grieve, there are people who just get up and go the next day, and then there's some of us who have to sit in it, or maybe we don't feel like we have a choice, that we the only thing we can do is sit in it, and it's very, very hard to recover from that. So I feel like you're right, like love is resilience.
How deeply are we getting into this? Are we going to spoil anything?
I won't,
okay,
because
well,
everyone
don't hate me.
Everyone will be like, I can't. Here, skip the next 2 minutes if you don't want to be spoiled.
No.
You know what happened to the book club?
No. Okay.
We have stories.
Should I tell this story? But I feel like I was the bad guy.
You were.
Okay. One of the book club members. So I gave a disclaimer saying that they were going to share all the details and essentially spoil the book. So for the book club members that haven't finished the book, she advised them to leave the room.
If they intended to finish it and didn't want the spoiler, because some people don't care. So.
Yeah. So she kicked them out. I'm just kidding. And I was like, I'm not going to finish the, wait. I can't say that. Yeah, so the people that didn't want the book spoiled, they ended up leaving. I decided to stay. And when I tell you guys, they unleashed the fattest spoiler I've ever heard in my life.
Because she didn't read or finish at the time, at least at the time.
Yes, I didn't. Okay, that was my bad. But I had read halfway through and I was like, this is just not the book for me. The romance was mid. I'm already familiar with the war, and I kind of talked about this during book club. I feel like for those that aren't familiar with what's going on in Syria, it would be really good to educate people on. But I was already familiar with the war. The romance was very mediocre to me, so I stayed. Okay. I told them that I was going to leave after they unleashed the spoiler on me. And I went and joined the other book club members that had decided to leave. I went in there hollering the spoiler.
Literally all I heard was from the living room. That's all I heard. Like a collective gasp stilled the room.
I didn't understand how seriously people take spoilers. Like, I know they left the room and I should have grasped that, and that's why I ended up apologizing. But listen, I take accountability for my actions. I was wrong. I was the bad guy. But I'm learning and I'm becoming a better person. Okay? I don't spoil things anymore. So I go in there and I'm like screaming the spoiler at the top of my lungs. One of the book members, like, you could see steam coming out of her ears.
Through her hijab and everything.
Hijab. Yeah, that is what ended up happening. And we kind of went back and forth. And I gaslighted her for like a minute because I was...
You said it's not that important. No. Well, thankfully, I did check in. She didn't actually...
No, we talked about it.
Okay.
Like I literally apologized because I didn't grasp how important spoilers are to people. Like, they're not really important to me, but that doesn't mean that they don't matter for others. And it was inconsiderate of me. And that's why I ended up apologizing. And she was fine after I apologized.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, though, she didn't get the full circle of your spoiler. Whatever you said didn't identify exactly who.
Let me remember what I
Whatever
said.
had happened to. That's what you said.
Wait.
That's what you said.
That's not even true.
You were talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, you said.
It was a mini. It was
It was a huge.
It was a preview of the spoiler.
Yeah. Because she left out some important nouns and things.
Characters and okay. I'm sorry.
All I have to say is, if you're not really a romance reader, I'm not a romance reader. I did sometimes find myself a little bit uncomfortable or just I couldn't sit with the feelings in this book sometimes.
Why?
The romance, like
What about it was?
It was extremely sweet. It was sickly sweet at times. Which, on the one hand, I was like cheering them on because I just wanted them to survive and I wanted them to have reason to. On the other hand, I was like, my brother and sister, my brother not here for this right now. I don't want to read your feelings. But yeah, no. It was really good representation in a sense, but that spoiler that you're alluding to.
No, it was my bad.
Amazing though. It's what.
And they could hear us shouting at each other. We were like, the room, are you okay?
I'm dying.
Sister. Drink water.
I tried that earlier.
The room was like, it's like 20 feet away. The door was closed and they could hear us shouting at each other. It got intense.
Yeah, because the rest of us were like, oh my God, could they hear us talking about it? Is that why?
Yeah.
Because we heard the muffled voices, but we didn't know what was going on. And then you texted me later and then I checked in with the other party and then they were like, no, it's fine. I didn't fully understand what she said anyway, so it's okay. But she misunderstood your spoiler to think it was something else altogether too. Yeah. So that's why she was like, whoa.
But like in general, it quickly diffused after I apologized.
Yeah.
I'm glad. We love each other very much. We like this.
Well, I was saying that this book, that moment and realization was what brought it from like maybe a 4-star to like an absolute 5-star for me. Because it just added this layer of complexity to it and brought it from something that was a simple coming of age, a simple love during war story to a psych trip.
So much deeper. With that revelation, do you feel like the romance was love? Or could it have been attachment?
I think attachment is part of love.
Really? I think
you have to have some form of attachment in order to love someone, right?
But like, was it more attachment than love? Or was it more love than attachment?
For what it's worth, this was super halal. And they weren't married the majority of the book.
Yeah.
Not the movie, the book. So I would say it wasn't love.
You heard it here, folks. If you're not married, you're not in love.
I don't think you think that too. Okay. Sorry. So your question was, did I think it was love or was it attachment?
We're your almost relationship experts. Oh, but this is Chapters and Chitchat.
That's okay. Tune into our other segment too, where we talk about things like we know everything.
We do know everything. Come on. We have microphones.
Okay, so I think that attachment is a part of love. Like it's a fundamental portion of how love manifests itself. You often have an attachment to the people that you love. I think it could have been the fledgling of love, you know what I mean? Like it was an attachment and then love grew from that. And I think that's fine. That happens in real life.
Okay.
Do I think that it was also because of the circumstances they were in and they were at wartime? Yes. But that also happens.
That's true.
So I can't fault it. That's a very real life circumstance. But I will say the way it plays out, like the way the author pairs this idea of softness with tragedy, it juxtaposes the two, but it makes it almost feel like it's a fever dream, like it's a fairy tale. So it it doesn't glamorize it, but it really, you forget about the war in those moments of softness and love.
That's why I'm saying, was it just a coping mechanism? Also considering all of the psychological things that she was going through. And the revelation of the story.
Yeah. So grief, PTSD, fear, anxiety, she was battling all that day to day.
Could she even see clearly enough? Because there's rose-tinted glasses and then there's
delusion.
I feel like
I don't think she was delusional.
No. Yeah.
It's not like she went for some an evil person just seeking solace or security. But
I think with all of the unknowns that are going on, all of the instability, all of the emotional trauma, like you said, the grief, the loss, the severing, how can you decipher between, oh, I'm picking this person because I need that comfort and safety and to be emotionally grounded, or I'm picking this person because it's an actual rational decision?
Wouldn't the other one be rational? Seeking security is not wrong.
That's true.
And seeking comfort also isn't wrong. Okay. Again,
comfort and security from the war and all the grief.
But what were marriages before? Primarily, they were political alliances, economic alliances, right? That was the core of it. You saw some level of growth or security attached to the marriage. And so we also come in from the Western world now with this idea of it should be grounded in some level of love, or you romanticize the idea of falling in love with that person once you are married. And in this case, they're at war, so it is really different from how we would experience it here today. That being said, I don't think there's anything wrong with choosing to. However, I think what you're paying attention to is she's not looking at it like he provides security and I want this because of that, and I see it as also a way to escape some of this tragedy. She hasn't intellectualized those thoughts in relation to the emotions she's feeling. She has just fully romanticized the entire thing. So I see where you're taking issue with it to some degree,
because
she's 18.
True. That's true.
So it,
without
almost
the
makes
war
sense.
and all of that stuff. Just like literally your hormones at that age. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Thank you. It actually made sense because I felt like I was
No, you made sense.
mumbling.
Now I feel like my question made no sense.
No, it did. It did. It did. Yeah. Is that a real bird outside? Sorry, do you guys hear a bird?
I think he wants to tune in and give his 2 cents.
Beautiful. Well, anyways, I'm gonna bring my mic. Oh, I see him. He's in my wisteria tree. Do you see him? I thought like somebody turned on bird sounds on Google or something.
Can you hear him? Okay.
Thank you for that nature break.
Are you sitting on your hand?
I am. Mm-hmm. Okay, I have a question for you actually. So, well, no, I don't have a question. I have a quote and a question. But when we're talking about all these emotions, the underlying issue that you take with some of it is that she's operating with PTSD. And like you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, you're not thinking clearly because you're dealing with so much, like maybe this is too much to take on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like almost out of preservation. Like you want to take care, like you want to make sure that she's appropriately taken care of and nobody else is helping her make those decisions. Yeah. So it's hard. Okay. So I have a quote and disclaimer. This is not really a spoiler because it takes place in the first 20 minutes, or 20 pages, like not the quote, but the realization. And that is that her fear manifests itself as its own entity in her mind. And she sees him, he speaks to her, he haunts her, he threatens her, he pushes her over the edge over and over and over and over. But it's fear. Mm-hmm. And in one way, it is a means of survival too. So here's the quote. Khawf, which means fear in Arabic, grins at me from the corner. He's not real. He's my fear made flesh. My guilt and my shame in a neat little package with dark eyes and cruel humor. But sometimes I need him because Khawf keeps me safe. Or so I tell myself. So she hallucinates this figure, Khawf, fear, and it's like a second voice in her head, in the sense of like, you know how you have like a moral voice kind of? Mm-hmm. It's almost like that, but like a precautionary voice. And it represents how much trauma has distorted her decision-making and mental health, which I feel like speaks to you and your concerns about her falling in love. But with that, there's this weird undercurrent of like how much of everything is really how she's experiencing it, you know, because he becomes increasingly aggressive as the book goes on because she's facing impossible choices. And instead of being paralyzed, she does like battle this fear. Mm-hmm. So with the personification of this trauma taking place as like fear, Khawf, like what do you think it says about how fear takes shape in how we think?
You mentioned how it wasn't the type of fear that is like the paralysis fear to where you can't make a decision, like you're so overwhelmed by the possibilities of what if this, what if that. I think in this case, the type of fear that he instilled in her was almost necessary for what she was going through because he was, if I remember correctly, he was pushing her to make impossible choices, but ultimately they were the right choices for her. Mm-hmm. Like he did, it's almost like a father figure. Mm. But like obviously way too aggressive, scary. I thought it was a djinn at first.
Me too. I thought she was possessed, but that's a whole other type of story.
Yeah, but he does want what's best for her.
I saw it as self-preservation, but in an extreme way.
Yeah.
And
but
like,
I think she needed it.
Yeah, but your self-preservation can either protect you or sabotage you.
Yeah.
You know? And so like using fear as this personification of trauma that enables your self-preservation to essentially take over. Mm-hmm. Like, what does that say about our survival instincts.
I think she just got dealt a good hand when it comes to this side of the fear in comparison to the paralysis one. Because if she had had the paralysis fear, would she have... Oh, that's a spoiler though. I can see things not having gone the right way for her.
Since we don't want to spoil anything, I have a different question. I feel like this book is a great one for challenging certain ideas around mental health. So in a lot of immigrant communities, I know in the Muslim community at large and in Arab communities, mental health, there's a lot of stigma around mental health. How do you feel like, or do you feel like this challenged those stigmas, and how?
I feel like it gave good perspective by putting her mental health struggles at showing it in such an amplified way to where people or the Arab community in general, who doesn't take mental health seriously, is forced to see the difficulty she's experiencing. And you almost have no choice but to accept that she's grappling with mental health. She's suffering physically, mentally, emotionally. And I think you are forced to question whether mental health is an important thing or not. Yeah.
You're right. The author does put it on plain display, right? Like it puts mental health at the forefront.
The traumatic imagery that you're seeing, the harshness of the war, combined with her mental health struggles, just make it seem that much more impactful.
What's interesting is the title itself, As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, is related to a quote. Let me just find it. I think by the poet Nizar Kabani. Am I right? Or am I making this stuff up? Oh, no, I was right. Okay. So it's every lemon will bring forth a child and the lemons will never die out. And I know that lemons can grow in really hot and dry and arid conditions. In like difficult conditions, lemon trees can still thrive. And despite the difficult conditions. So I feel like this is a nod off to mental health does impact you. There can be growth from the things that you face and the conditions you deal with day to day. But like it's symbolic of potential to survive and even to thrive potentially. Like even while you're enduring all of these conditions or the manifestations of trauma, depression, anxiety, so on and so forth, you're still able to then there's still opportunity.
Yeah.
You mentioned that like it's coupled with the extreme descriptions of the revolution, right, and the war. And so those things literally do push it in front of your face. It's like, this is why she's struggling, and that struggle is real. And despite that, she's still able to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all these other things. So I think it's really powerful.
I think a lot of times Arabs will chalk up mental health issues to, oh, you're not praying enough. You're not close to God enough. You're just being ungrateful. But when you see it in this context, I think it does give a chance to... Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. But if they take it seriously in this way, then there is hope that it might open their eyes up to taking it seriously on smaller scales too. And having more compassion for people who do go through mental health struggles without it being so obvious as to why.
Invisible struggles.
Yeah, invisible struggles.
No, definitely.
Okay, we have another quote. It goes, I can't leave, I can't. If I leave, who will stay to help? Who will remember my mother's voice, my brother's laughter? Who will rebuild the homes if we all run? This is my home, even if it's on fire, even if it's burning me.
You know how when people see images of struggle or war and people still trying to build a home or a life despite that, spectators, outsiders often question, like, why don't they just leave? Like, oh, there's opportunity elsewhere. Why don't they just go elsewhere? And I feel like this is the answer to that. Like, this quote is like, my blood is in the soil.
Yeah.
You know, my family, my memories, my everything, my lineage, literally everything. And
that gives me chills.
yeah.
Because it's your identity. If you're to leave and go start building a life somewhere else, like you said, like you're losing all of your heritage, and it'll never be the same. I seen my parents and my family who had to come here to build a new life. It will never feel the same. You will never personally connect with the politics, the society. It doesn't feel like it's yours. You feel like an imposter. You feel like an intruder. And yeah, if you don't have your land, without your own land, you can't build a home. You can't have schools. You can't have hospitals. You can't have a community that's connected. And being forced to walk away from that is very traumatic. And you just lose your sense of identity.
100%. I can't speak to the experience of having a land that my family connects with because my people lost their land so many generations ago. But like, I'm the daughter of refugees too, and refugee guilt is real. It's like there's pain in leaving, there's pain and risk in staying as well. And no matter what you choose, you have to go full-hearted into it, even if it means alienating yourself or the potential of not even being able to continue on. The idea of connecting to a land is really weird for me because, like, my ethnic group is from Southeast Asia, where we are a diaspora group. And though my family is from, you know, a village that historically was a part of the original kingdom or whatever, we have lost so much language. We don't have script. We don't have very much of our cultural customs anymore. And that's chalked up to this idea of no one was able to keep their land.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it that way, there's pain no matter what decision you make. This is one of the struggles that our two main characters, Salama and Kanan, you know, go between. Like, one wants to leave, the other wants to stay. And at what risk are they willing to do either of the two? Because both are incredibly dangerous journeys to embark on. And there's so much emotional weight when thinking about like what they consider home and then having to rebuild, like you were saying, and rebuilding in a place that's unfamiliar amongst people who are strange and
people who don't want you to be there.
Yeah.
A lot of the times.
Right.
I mean, how often are immigrants actually embraced? I think me trying to put myself in Salama's and obviously I can't, like, I haven't experienced war firsthand, but just thinking about it, I can see the guilt. I can see almost feeling complicit if you leave. I think for me, if I was there alone, I would try to stay. But if I had family involved, I think I would leave. I would feel overwhelmed by guilt if I were to leave. But I think if I had family, it would be the right choice to make because I would want their safety before my own. And I would feel more guilty keeping my family in a place where they might possibly be harmed than if I were to stay because it's my land, I'm trying to defend my land. I feel like I have an obligation to keep my family healthy before standing for my land. But if I was there alone, I think I would stay for as long as I could.
Salama, like, she witnesses the most brutal things happen, and like the cost of war is primarily felt on the most innocent people. And so there's this one quote. There's two quotes. One I'll read because I already found it, but the other I'll look for it in the book. There was a boy in the hospital yesterday. He was missing a leg. He said he didn't cry because crying was for babies. He was 7. And war ages you faster than time ever could. And there's one other quote in relation to this, and so I'll kind of briefly summarize and or skim through this portion of the book with you. And it isn't a spoiler, but it really sets up the context of what Salama is experiencing as this first-year pharmacy student turned surgical assistant, medical assistant in the ER, which is the entire hospital. All right. A little boy starts singing with glazed eyes, staring into the ceiling. He's shirtless and his black hair thin. His chest heaves with each breath. He's struggling to fill his lungs. I can see his ribs, count each one of them. He sings one of the many freedom songs made by the rebels. His young voice is quiet but strong. It carries over the chaos and embeds itself within the hospital walls. If these walls could speak, imagine what they would say. I walk towards him in a trance, guided only by the tune of his singing, and there's no one beside him. Neither his legs nor his arms are severed. There's no blood coming out of his mouth or dripping from his head. He's not a priority, and yet I clasped his hands in mine. They're as cold as ice. His little coat must be back at the school, buried under the rubble. Are you hurt? I ask, through silent tears. He doesn't stop singing, but his voice is lower. I check his pulse. It's slow and unnatural. I don't see any wounds. Are you hurt? I ask again urgently. At this rate, his heart will stop. He turns towards me. My name is Ahmed. I'm 6 years old. Can you help me find my mama? His eyes, deep blue, are sunk so far into his skull, I'm scared they'll vanish. He's in shock. I take my lab coat off, put it around him. I warm his hands in mine and kiss them. Yes, Habibi, I'll find your mama. Can you tell me if you're in pain? I feel funny. Where? My head, I feel sleepy. He coughs roughly, and my chest, I don't know. Internal bleeding. I yell for the doctor. He hurries to my side and checks his pulse. Ahmed tells him he's thirsty while the doctor inspects his head. Extreme thirst can only mean one thing. With a deep sigh, the doctor shakes his head. Are you giving up on him? Salama, we don't have a neurosurgeon. No one here knows how to operate on internal bleeding in the brain. So we're just going to let him. There are droplets of sweat coating Ahmed's hair on his forehead. I swallow the bile in my throat. Are you in pain, son? The doctor asks. He shakes his head. Adrenaline and shock. He doesn't need morphine. We can't do anything except make his last moments better. And then Salama gives him a blood transfusion from herself. Or tries to. And the doctor stops her and tells her, if I could, I would give him everything to make sure he was safe and well and healthy, but I can't. The only thing I can do right now is turn over to help the little girl whose intestines are all over the floor. We can't save everyone. He leaves before Salama can yell, and Ahmed says, Auntie, stopping to gasp for a breath. Yes, Habibi? She turns around and clasps his hands into her own. And I'm going to just read directly again. If you live, I'll take care of you, I vow. Just fine. Just live. Please, just live. Am I going to die, he asks, and I see no fear. Do all 6-year-olds know what death is? Or is it only children of war? My hands shake. Are you scared of death? I reply instead. He coughs. A hint of red drips from his lips. I don't know. Baba's dead. Mama says he's in heaven. Will I go to heaven too? I shudder in a breath. Yes, you will. You'll see your Baba there. He smiles gently. Alhamdulillah, he whispers. What can I do in heaven, Auntie? How can a child have so much composure in the face of death? I swallow my tears, drowning inwardly. You will play all day. There are games and food and candy and toys and everything you could ever want. Can I talk to God too? I'm taken back by his question. Of course you can, Ya Umri. Good. We sit silently for a few minutes and I listen as his breath and his lungs struggle. Already his eyes are losing focus, his breath's becoming shallower by the second. I pray for his soul and recite Quran verses in a whisper. Auntie, don't cry. When I go to heaven, I'll tell God everything. He chokes out. I look up and his face has gone still. His eyes are glassy and it looks like little stars are caught in his blue irises. Oh, that gets me every time. But yeah, that was the part of the book that I think locked me in. It's scary because it just says so much about the normalization of trauma and the horrors of war becoming the baseline of their experiences, and they just have to like pick and choose what can they actually do to keep going, to mobilize, to save someone. And
I just can't imagine how much he must have seen as a child to only want to see God when he goes to heaven.
This portion especially, it's early on in the book. And for all of the non-Arab, non-Muslim folks who are less familiar with the conflict or just less familiar with, for people who just have not seen struggle in general, it humanizes the people who are in conflict zones, who are struggling because of oppression, because of war, because of whatever the circumstances are. It humanizes, I guess, the people we often only see in headlines.
You ask any kid in America or the West what they'd want in heaven, and they'd say like rainbow Skittles or something. It just makes me so sad. This is the final quote that we have. It goes, "As long as the lemon trees grow, as long as the olives still bloom, there is hope for Syria. I hold on to this. I repeat it like a prayer. SubhanAllah, though, Syria is free now."
This quote is in reference to an activist, or something an activist said, right?
And it's used throughout the whole novel.
Even the title.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it earlier, but this is really just that symbolism of survival and the ability to come back, to grow, to be resilient. Why do you feel like fiction like this, which is rooted in reality, so much of this was thoroughly researched? She sped up the timeline a little bit just to make it make sense, but why do you feel like the historical fiction is more impactful, more effective at reaching audiences than nonfiction, than autobiographies, memoirs, that sort of thing?
Well, I think nonfiction is typically a little bit harder to read. You don't get the internal dialogue. You don't get much of the emotional turmoil that you can connect with. I feel like here it was really easy to connect with the characters. And when you have that connection, you just hit so much harder.
Personally, when I see something that says based on true events, or it's shelved in the nonfiction section, I'm less inclined to pick it up. I think for a lot of people, reading can be a hobby that they want to escape with. I'm not saying that this excuses not taking action, not speaking up for the right values, not actually, standing with what you believe in. However, I think being fiction sets it up in a way where the reader feels at liberty to empathize with or to relate to the character. When it's somebody in real life, you balance this line of you may critique the person, you may relate with them, but then don't know if that's right because you weren't actually in their shoes. But when it's fiction, it enables you to actually set yourself in that space that is described, to walk the course of those emotions despite not having actually had that same background. It does help with that humanization aspect of it.
And also seeing the thought process. When you read nonfiction, you're not seeing what the people are thinking, and you're not in their heads. And I feel like it helps also connect you when you can read their thoughts.
Well, I recommend the book. yeah, no matter what your favorite genre is, I recommend the book. I think I had criticism around some of the romantic subplot things only because I may or may not be mildly jaded when it comes to romantic books. Not my genre really, but it's emotionally provocative. It is incredibly it's got an incredible like thought growth trajectory for people who do read the book. Like I feel like it informs and it educates in a way, but it also forces you to feel things that you don't really contend with when you're like just encountering it on your phone, for example. You can just swipe away. It sets you in a setting that really, really, really forces you to push those boundaries and grow a little bit, especially if you're unfamiliar with conflict, strife, what happened in Syria, and so on and so forth. So yeah, if you haven't already, I recommend that you read this book.
And if you have read the book, feel free to DM us or email us a moment that intrigued you or stuck with you, and we might read it on a future episode.
If you have other books you'd like for us to dissect or just talk through our thoughts on, please leave them in the comments below as well. We are a 2-woman book club that belongs to another book club. We could use all the suggestions you have.
Please join our book club, BOGO Beans.
BOGO Bean Book Club.
BOGO
like a virtual book club?
Yeah.
Hey, I like that. Okay, if you're interested, well, you know where we are. You can find us. Have a good rest of your day.